Okay, this is gonna probably seem like a really weird motivation message for the week. But if you know me by now, you know that I just go wherever my mind's going. And for the last week or so, I've been thinking a lot about disappointment. You're like, wow, that's really heavy for a Monday morning. Why do I want to talk about disappointment, Michael? Well, I've been thinking about disappointment for a lot of reasons. We get disappointed for various reasons. Think about, maybe we've let somebody down. Maybe we haven't, performed to the level that we'd like to or that somebody expects of us. Maybe we lost a client or a sale. Maybe we didn't hit a personal goal, something that it could be something outside of us or something inside of us. But we all have disappointments and they come at us at a lot of different directions. I think my question, the reason I've been thinking about this lately is, what do you do? How do you respond when you have that kind of disappointment, that's thrown at you? And we talk a lot about, fight or flight, which can be a response that you may have. But I think there's more to it. And so I started thinking about how we all respond, how I've responded to things. Sometimes fight, sometimes flight, sometimes surrender. But what I really want to focus on is the last one. And I'm going to give you a little tease first. When I think about myself through my life, but especially through my career, I think about the times that I used to be in fight mode a lot. And when I mean fight, I don't mean like I'm going to punch you out fight. I mean like defend myself, or let's say I didn't hit a target with my job, or maybe I didn't hit an expectation. Early on in my career, I had the tendency to fight back and say, yeah, but this is why it didn't happen. This was the thing that got in my way. This is the reason that I couldn't control the outcome. So for me, fight was always like that sense of, I'm going to show you why I couldn't achieve it, and you're going to have to abide by it. But the fight mode doesn't really help you. I mean, all it does is put you into excuse mode. It also just puts you into kind of denial, and it doesn't look good for you. It doesn't help you to advance yourself. Same thing personally. There's a lot of people that, whenever they take something really, really personally, they want to fight back. They want to push back or say something mean back. And I'm not just saying something mean said to you and you say something mean back. I mean, sometimes people just might, be talking and say something you're not happy with. So you might fight back that immediate response, which is about protection, right? So whether it's like having an excuse for why we didn't achieve something, or it's a fight response to somebody that we think, did us wrong, it's to protect us. And protection is a funny thing because you can't grow when you're constantly protecting yourself. You can't advance. You can't achieve new things. You can't hit new targets because you're always in that shell trying to protect yourself. So then there was a time in my career that I went a lot into flight mode, that everything really stressed me out and sent me running to try and protect myself again. I remember really, really clearly, probably in my early 30s, where, I was advancing in my career. I had many more responsibilities, and sometimes they were incredibly overwhelming to me. And you guys know, if you, watched a few of these, that a lot of times I talk about what that space is, that mental health space to take care of yourself. And as I got stressed and more stressed about things, sometimes I just couldn't even respond to anything. I might see the phone ring and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my boss. I can't answer that phone call. Or I'd see an email come through and it would stress me out, just the thought of what if it's something bad? What if I haven't done something right? What if? And so I would send myself into flight mode often. And I learned how to move out of that stage. But it's very much like the fight mode, that you're all about protecting yourself. And yet you're really not protecting yourself at all. You're actually harming yourself. So just like the fight mode, either to have excuses or to push back, will not allow you to grow. Fleeing and having that flight won't allow you to grow either. So I remember kind of the next stage, and it's interesting to look back on these things over time and be able to reflect because the next stage I went into was almost surrender. Whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to surrender to it. I'm just going to go with the flow. Everything happens for a reason. And so I allowed everything to happen. I didn't run away. I didn't try and defend. I didn't really have a lot of stance. So if somebody said, "Hey, I don't like the way you did this," I'd say, "Okay." And so there's an element of definitely difference than fight or flight. But complete surrender means you have nothing you stand for either. And it's a very challenging situation. So, somewhere, I don't know, in the last 5 years, maybe 6 years, 7 years, I reached a different level and I call it acceptance. And acceptance doesn't mean surrender and it doesn't mean everything is all good. It means that there's more time to reflect. As you know, Yoga Dog joins me every day. He reminds me to breathe, that space where you let things sit in your head, where you let the thoughts just settle for a little bit. You let the feedback sit in your brain for just a little bit. You don't respond quickly. Almost in surrender mode, I was always willing to give up. I was always, or to give in, or to, to say, okay. And there's times when you have to not just only acknowledge that maybe you've done something right, done something wrong, you have to change, you have to fix, but that you really let it simmer in who you are, that you breathe it in, and then you can make some choices that are more clear. That sometimes you have to say, okay, I didn't like that happened. All right, now what am I going to do about it? What's the best way to go about this? Or, man, that feedback was really hard to take. I don't like that. And some of it is really valid, but maybe not all of it is valid. Or, wow, I really missed that goal that I had for myself. I don't have to just give up now. And I don't have to turn around 180 degrees and go right back at it to try and run my head into the wall. Maybe I can just figure out what pieces make sense to accept and what ones I need to develop or need to work on or need to go back and have dialogues with other people. How do I listen more truly, listen more fully, embrace the disappointments with less what's the word I want to use? Less negative impact to myself, but really to see it in a different plane where it can help me to continue to get better. Hey, you're probably saying, "Wow, again, Michael, this is really deep for motivation. Why are you here this week?" Well, in the last couple of weeks, I've been giving several members of my team a lot of really intense feedback, constructive feedback. I've also been trying to give a lot of kudos when there's great positive steps forward. But it dawns on me that it's really important for all of us to figure out where we are in those modes. Are we a flyer? Are we a fighter? Do we surrender and give up? Or do we truly go through those difficult times and take those deep breaths and think and understand and analyze and reflect and figure out what points we want to say, okay, that's valid. What things do we want to come back and say, hey, you know what? When we talked about this last time, I didn't actually talk more about why I'm having this struggle, or maybe why I might have made that mistake, or why I think we should do something different. I just kind of let it happen to me and I didn't know what to say at the time. But instead, can we actually take those moments and ask ourselves, what can we learn from this? But what do we not have to accept and embrace? And in that moment, I think there's power. And it's power to not only control your own emotions and emotional response to things, but that we don't have to take things so seriously and so deeply personally, that we understand that all of us are continuing to learn. All of us are continuing to grow. All of us face challenges that sometimes make us want to fight, maybe defend, maybe to excuse, maybe to fly away because it's stressful. Maybe we have those moments where we're just like, I give up, fine, whatever you want. But when we truly reach that point where we can embrace and accept, we find peace. We find a lot more opportunities to breathe like Yoga Dog. Okay, I'm going to take it for what is important for me to learn now. I'm going to use what's important for me tomorrow, and I'm going to continue to move forward and not let this tear me down, but for me to continue to see how this builds my foundation. So a little different one this week, but that is definitely what's motivating me this week. I hope you have a great one.